My name is Alex Reed. I'm 32, divorced, and living in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaky ceiling and a neighbor who yells in his sleep. Life hasn't exactly been kind to me lately. I lost my job at the auto shop after a dispute with the manager. Not my proudest moment, but he had it coming. The rent was overdue, my savings were dry, and desperation had a way of making anything sound appealing, even sitting alone in an abandoned building all night. I found the listing on a community board at a gas station just outside of town. Security guard wanted, night shifts only, minimal responsibilities, good pay. No company name, just a number and a location. Seemed shady, but I figured I didn't have much to lose. The factory was about 15 miles out from the town limits, nestled in a forgotten industrial zone with cracked asphalt roads and shuttered warehouses. The building itself was a relic from another time. 4 stories of rusted metal and broken windows, fenced off with a collapsing chain-link barrier. An old sign hung from the front gate. Gallomere Textiles, established. 1952. The paint had peeled to the point where you could barely make out the name. When I pulled up on the first night, a man in a gray suit was waiting for me. I swear I never heard his car arrive or leave. He just appeared. He introduced himself as Mr. Harlan, said he was contracted to handle security personnel. No small talk, no company paperwork. Just handed me a laminated badge, a walkie-talkie, and a key card. "Your station's in the security booth on the 2nd floor," he said, voice flat. "Check the monitors, don't wander." "Anything I should know?" I asked. He paused. "If you see something on the screens, don't react, just log it." I thought it was some kind of weird hazing. Maybe he wanted to test my nerves. I shrugged it off and went inside. The interior was even worse than the outside. Decaying walls, flickering emergency lights, the ever-present scent of mold and something metallic. The elevator didn't work, so I took the stairs. The 2nd floor security room was a small glass box tucked in the corner of the main floor, overlooking what used to be the production area. Inside were 9 monitors mounted on the wall, each feeding grainy black and white footage from old security cameras scattered around the facility. The cameras were labeled lobby, north hall, loading dock, break room, basement stairs, machine floor, storage, boiler room, and south wing. I sat down, put my coffee on the desk, and settled in. The first night was uneventful. Boring even. Nothing moved. No rats, no wind, not even the flicker of bad wiring. It was like the place was frozen in time. I went home that morning thinking I had scored the easiest gig of my life. But night 2, that was when things started getting weird. I arrived a little before 10 p.m., the sky bruised with clouds, wind hissing through the trees like something whispering a warning. I swiped the key card, entered the lobby, and made my way up the creaking stairs to the security booth. Everything looked the same. Dusty consoles, grimy screens, that strange stillness. I powered up the monitors. For the first hour, nothing. Just static-filled silence. The factory remained as lifeless as ever. I sipped my coffee, leaned back, and let my thoughts wander. Then, around 11:13 p.m., camera 5, basement stairs, flickered. I leaned forward. There was a figure on the screen. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the low-res feed, maybe some shadow or glitch. But it was there, standing motionless at the top of the stairs. A man, tall, dressed in dark clothes. Head tilted downward like he was staring straight into the basement. I picked up the walkie. I think someone's in the building," I said. No response. I called again. Silence. I checked the entry logs. Only my badge had been used that night. No other entries. The gates were locked, the side doors chained, no alarms triggered. When I looked back at the screen, he was gone. I flipped through all 9 feeds, searching every hallway and room. Nothing. I told myself I'd imagined it. Maybe my brain was playing tricks on me. Sleep deprivation. Pixel bleed. I noted the time and camera in the logbook, just like Harlan told me. I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Until the knocking started. It came from behind me. 3 slow, heavy knocks on the glass panel of the booth. I spun around, heart in my throat. No one there. I stepped outside into the hall. Empty. Silent. I even checked the stairwell, shining my flashlight down all 4 flights. Nothing but dust and darkness. When I returned to the booth, camera 5 was completely black. No static, no feed, just void. I spent the rest of the shift sitting stiff as a corpse, my eyes glued to the monitors. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. When dawn finally broke and I stepped outside, I swore I heard something breathing in the shadows just behind me. But when I turned to look, there was nothing. I tried not to come back for night 3. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, engine idling, hands gripping the wheel like a lifeline. I stared up at the rotting husk of that factory, and every nerve in my body screamed for me to drive away. But I didn't. Because fear doesn't pay rent. And because some part of me needed to know. That figure on the stairs, the knocking, the dead feed, it wasn't a prank. I felt something in that place. A presence. Something ancient. Wrong. I told myself I'd only stay long enough to prove it was nothing. Just a job. Just an old building playing tricks on a tired mind. I wish I'd trusted my instincts. The 3rd night started quietly. Too quietly. None of the cameras glitched. No shadowy figures, no knocking. But something else was off. The logbook. Every night I was supposed to document anything unusual. That night when I flipped it open, I saw pages filled with writing, dozens of entries. But not in my handwriting. The dates went back months, maybe years. Saw her again, same spot, break room mirror. Voices from the boiler room, sounded like crying, didn't investigate. Man with no eyes stared through the glass, didn't blink. Don't look at camera 3 after midnight. He knows I see him. I think he's getting closer. The entries grew more frantic the further I read. The handwriting degraded into wild, erratic scribbles. The final entry chilled my blood. I'm not alone in my skin anymore. Something's wearing me. Then, nothing. No signature, no date. The rest of the pages were blank. Suddenly, camera 3, loading dock, buzzed with static, then cleared. A man stood at the far edge of the dock, half in shadow, pale, unmoving, hands hanging limp at his sides. I blinked. Now he was closer. Still. Staring at the lens. I blinked again. He was gone. But the laughter started almost immediately. Low, wheezing, as if something were trying to mimic the sound of amusement but had never laughed in its life. The sound didn't come from the monitors. It came from the hallway outside the booth. Slow, guttural, wet. I turned off the speakers. Didn't matter. The laughter was inside my ears, inside me. I jammed my fingers into my ears, squeezed my eyes shut, and rocked in the chair like a lunatic. Eventually, the sound faded. Or maybe I stopped hearing it. Either way, the silence that followed was worse. Because silence meant it was watching again. Waiting. On the 4th night, I brought a weapon. A crowbar I kept under the driver's seat. It made me feel foolish, walking into that place like some wannabe action hero. But I needed something, anything, to feel like I had control. Deep down, I knew it wouldn't help. Whatever haunted this place wasn't something you could fight. But I carried it anyway, like a charm. The cameras lit up the moment I entered the booth. No static, no glitches. But they were off. The angles were wrong. Camera 7-storage- was showing the break room. Camera 2-north hall- was showing the outside of the building, though there was no camera out there. Camera 8-boiler room- showed only a close-up of someone's eye. Open, motionless. staring back. I ripped the power from the monitors. Silence, but not peace. I'd barely sat down when the temperature in the booth dropped. Sharp and sudden. My breath fogged in the air, and a frost crept along the inside of the glass. The factory had no central power, only backup generators, no AC, no cold fronts. The chill was unnatural. I turned, slowly, scanning the hallway outside, and there she stood. A woman, thin, soaked, barefoot, hair clinging to her face and shoulders as if she just crawled out of a river. Her eyes were wide, lifeless. Her mouth was open, not screaming, not breathing, just open. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. She raised her arm, long and impossibly thin, and pointed. Down the hall, toward the boiler room. Then she vanished. Not walked away, not faded, just blinked out of existence. My mind told me to stay put, lock the door, wait for sunrise, but my feet betrayed me. I found myself walking, crowbar in hand, heart pounding like a drumbeat in a cavern. The hallway stretched longer than before, every step echoing like a scream. The deeper I went, the darker it got. Lights overhead popped and hissed. The air grew heavier, like breathing underwater. I reached the boiler room door. It was open. Inside, pipes wept rust. The walls were stained with old soot and something darker, thicker. There was a massive furnace in the center, long cold. A chain hung from the ceiling, swinging lazily though there was no wind. Then I saw her again, curled in the corner, rockin'. The woman. She whispered a name over and over. Clara, Clara, Clara. When I stepped closer, she looked up. Her face wasn't human. It was a mask of skin, stitched together from other faces. Eyes mismatched, lips sewn shut, yet the whispers still poured out. She rose to her feet without moving, just shifted upright, like gravity didn't apply to her. The mask twitched, then smiled. I ran. I didn't care where. I just ran. Back through the endless corridor, back to the stairs, back to the booth where the monitors were flickering on and off like dying heartbeats. When I finally sat back down, panting and pale, the cameras had reset. Camera 8 showed the real boiler room again. Empty. But on the glass door behind me, someone had pressed a handprint, still wet. I didn't sleep after the fourth night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. That stitched mask, that unnatural smile. I felt her presence behind me, in the mirror, in the corner of the room, in the stillness between thoughts, like the factory had followed me home. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to find out what this place really was. The next morning, I drove straight to the town library and dug through the archives. The name Gallowmere Textiles turned up in old newspapers. Most of the articles were dry, reports of layoffs, bankruptcies, labor strikes. Then I found one headline buried in the back of a yellowed folder from April 1976. 7 killed in factory blaze. Gallowmere plant closed indefinitely. The article was short. Said a boiler exploded during the night shift. The fire spread quickly. 5 workers and 2 supervisors died in the blaze. Officials blamed a faulty pressure valve. The factory was sealed and abandoned within the year. But there was a second article tucked in with it. Smaller. No byline. Unconfirmed reports of ritual activity at factory site. Witnesses describe strange symbols on the basement walls and mention of a Clara heard whispered by survivors. Police have denied any cult involvement. Factory representatives declined to comment. That name again. Clara. The same name whispered by the woman in the boiler room. I photocopied everything and left, my stomach twisted in knots. When I got home, I spread the files out on the floor and stared at them for hours. Patterns began to emerge. The same names appeared in multiple places. One of the dead supervisors, Matthew Harlan. The same name as the man who gave me this job. But he hadn't aged a day. That night, I went back to the factory. I didn't want to, but something had shifted. I wasn't just afraid anymore. I was involved, caught in the web, and I needed answers. I climbed to the booth and found a box waiting on the desk. No note, no label, just a small wooden box. Inside was a single item, a charred employee badge. The name on it? Clara Elridge. I picked it up. Instantly, the cameras began to flicker violently. Every monitor showed her face. Not from a distance. Not standing in a hallway. Close. Right up to the glass. Mouth moving. Repeating the same phrase on every screen. But the words only made sense when I saw the whisper scratched into the desk beneath me, carved by a desperate, shaking hand. She was burned alive. Now she wants out. Then the lights in the booth died, and the door creaked open. The booth door creaked wider. I froze. There was no wind, no pressure from the air, but it moved. Something wanted me to come out, and I did. I don't know why. Maybe I was past the point of caring. Maybe whatever haunted this place had been wearing me down night after night, waiting for the right moment. I stepped into the hallway. Every light in the factory flicked on, buzzing, sickly fluorescent tubes sputtering to life one by one. The halls were no longer cold. They were hot. The kind of thick heat you feel standing too close to a furnace. The air reeked of burnt hair and boiled meat. I walked without direction. The factory seemed to shift around me, leading me where it wanted. Walls that weren't there before. Corridors that bent wrong. Time didn't exist. Just the sound of my footsteps and the mechanical hum of a building that shouldn't be alive. Eventually, I came to a door. Basement, restricted access. I swiped my badge. It opened. The stairs wound down longer than the building should allow, a concrete spiral descending into black. The walls were covered in soot, but under the grime, I saw symbols. Carved, not painted. Worn smooth like they'd been there for centuries. At the bottom was a chamber. The walls were scorched. Chains hung from the ceiling. In the center of the floor, a large iron circle, part furnace, part altar. Bones littered the edges, and in the center of it all, Clara. Not the woman I saw before. Not exactly. This Clara was burning, her skin blistered and cracking, yet she didn't scream. Her mouth was sewn shut with wire, her eyes white-hot like embers. Her arms stretched out as if crucified, fingers hooked into the iron. And standing beside her was Harlan. He looked the same as the first night. Clean suit, blank expression. "Welcome," he said. "You've done well. She's almost complete." I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry, my heart hammering like a jackhammer in my chest. "She's been hungry for years," he continued. "Trapped here, fed by fear. Every guard we bring keeps her alive a little longer." He stepped aside, revealing a table covered in ID badges. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All burned. All real. I recognized some of the names. From the logbook, from the archives. "All of them were like you," Harlan said. "All of them stayed just long enough to see." I tried to run, but the furnace flared to life. Flames roared upward, licking the ceiling, and Clara screamed, not with her mouth, not with sound, but in my mind. Every nerve, every bone, every buried trauma. I felt it all. She wasn't asking for help. She was dragging me in. I woke up in the booth, soaked in sweat, the morning sun bleeding through the dusty window. No sign of the basement, no Harlan. But the ID badge on my chest was burned at the edges. That was 3 nights ago. I haven't gone back, but I can still hear her in the walls of my apartment. Still see her in reflective surfaces. Still feel the heat when I close my eyes. And last night, I found a new security badge slipped under my door. Same logo, same factory. Just a sticky note on top. She remembers you.